country with family and all that.
Ramadan?
Yeah, Eid is over, yeah, they had Eid, so.
You can eat again.
I didn't know that. That's a good one, Eid again.
Oh, this will be a fast one.
I don't know which video it was that was having that noise.
I think I can make all the videos.
All the videos, really? Like, I might have to go back and listen to one of those and then see. That guy can help. Say, no, it's not that noisy in here normally. Even our noise is usually just rustling papers.
Keyboard noise or something.
Huh.
Nice,
No, I'm sorry about that. That looks like a copy of the ethics quiz.
This is something we already finished with last.
We did the lecture through it in the last class.
Is it ethic or is it same thing ethic?
Yeah, I say ethics, yeah, professional responsibilities. It's easier for me to just say ethics. And,
The magnets, that's
yeah, we played with the magnets last time too. The magnets, actually,
Oh,
we've got rid of it, it's still here.
shuffle around and all of these.
This is my magnet board with the 49 processes on it. So the team effort, we put together pretty well. I got wanted to take the magnets that you bring for Saturday and I didn't have them there, but that's all right. I took a set of the cardstock. So that's what's in the bottom of your pack, the cardstock version of this. You don't have to apply magnets, put them on there. It's handy for the class, but I think for doing it at home, I would just use the
Is that
cardstock.
your first year?
Yeah, I thought it'd be cooler. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'll answer the first question and we'll go clockwise. Clockwise? That's clockwise today. So while working on an external project, your customer says or asks you to perform some additional tasks that are not included in the formal contract. You should, of these choices, step one is to acknowledge the request, C, and advise the customer to submit a formal change request. Number two.
It's gonna be, you're managing an internal R&D project. The initial results, test results are very poor. You're afraid your management might cancel the project, and this could reflect poorly on you and the team. Verification testing could be done quickly and inexpensively. What should you do? You should inform management immediately and recommend retesting for verification. C.
Yeah, C is correct. I said we're gonna go clockwise and I started going
Counterclockwise. Okay. As the project manager of a very large and highly visible project, you receive a preliminary press release for your approval before distribution. You are expected to approve the release without comment. Your review identifies a major discrepancy regarding some key from project financial estimates that may mislead the intended recipients. As a project manager, it is your responsibility to inform the project sponsor and approve the release. That's a memo. So C, completely rewrite the press release and include the correct information.
Actually, in this case, they went with A. Inform the sponsor the discrepancy
Sponsor, okay.
and refuse to. It may be that they just missed something, but it's usually best to check with that person first, I think. If they still don't want to do it, sorry, we can't approve it.
The project is running out of cash and significant work remains. You're directed by senior management to instruct your people to use another project charge number while working on your project. You should understand the background and management instructions before taking any action.
Inform the corporate auditors.
Actually, they did go with C as well.
Oh, did they?
They did?
Some companies allow you to do that kind of thing, so really it's a company-specific thing. And yes, we could actually borrow charge accounts, and it's like, okay, as long as it's a approved procedure or something. So I guess understanding why they even suggest that.
I guess senior management knows what they're doing.
Yeah, well, we hope so. Or we have to follow their direction, I guess, unless it's unethical. Yeah, that's right, this is the ethics quiz.
See number 5.
Mhm.
You are working in a country where it is customary to exchange gifts between contractor and customer. Your company code of conduct clearly states that you cannot accept gifts from any client. Failure to accept the gift from this client may result in termination of the contract. The action to take in this case would be C, contact your project sponsor and or your legal or public relations group for assistance.
Yeah, that's the one they went with too.
Me?
Yeah.
During your assignment as a project manager, you had a new member to your project team. This new team member was recently hired from competitor and offers to share a substantial amount of proprietary information for her previous company. This information could put you and your team in a very strong position for future business. You are aware of non-compete clause in the new hire's condition of employment. You should review the condition of employment with new hire, or review the information only except for direct impact to the project financial status. I think this is complicated. So because of proprietary information, it could put company at risk if you use that.
Mm-hmm.
So should not accept. So D is the answer? Or we still would consider the other way around?
Actually, what they went with was B, review the condition of employment with the new hire and advise her to reconsider her offer. Yeah, because she's kind of overstepped her bounds. It was an example of Motorola. Motorola has some good examples. One of the vice presidents was looking to move back, maybe up to CEO, didn't get to go up there, and so he left the company, and a short time later became the CEO of Nortel, which is a Canadian company doing the same kinds of stuff, and that went to court, and the lawyers and stuff fought over it. I didn't hear what finally happened on that, but he definitely breached his non-compete agreement. But then Nortel failed anyway, so.
But if she took a job, this is a problem, right, for Stockholm?
Well, since you had that non-compete clause in there, that was kind of not a non-compete, but if bringing over, bringing over her proprietary information. That was the main problem in there. She agreed not to share it, now she's trying to share it. Hey, wait a minute, not a good idea.
An example of a conflict of interest would be, I picked A. As a public official, you made a decision about a contract award that would benefit you personally.
Yeah, A is correct.
Each of the following describes the use of an ethical approach except C.
Yep, C is
Accepting
correct.
gifts in exchange.
Choose your favorite contractor over somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Which of the following situations describes a violation PMI professional code of conduct? Well, it's kind of, they stated it a few times even in our slides, I know. But, use of confidential information to advance your personal position or influence a critical decision is kind of one that would be in violation of that.
So B.
Yeah.
in order to balance the needs of the many stakeholders involved in your project. The most desirable method to achieve resolution of conflicts would be to compromise
Compromise is often the solution we end up with, but it means both sides have to give up something. But PMI considers that a lose-lose thing. It may still be the best solution.
Read D then.
Yeah, D is probably better. If we can really work it through together and come up with something of a consensus on, I think that's way.
All right, in order for the project manager to fully and effectively understand a stakeholder's personal concerns or grievances that is a source of conflict, it may be necessary to A, ask for a written description of the problem and submit it through the project office. Please schedule a project review session with the entire project team. And C is attempt to empathize with the stakeholder, involve the project sponsor as the arbitrator. A D?
It's one I can learn back from my 70s empathy labs and listening skills workshops and stuff. They actually want,
C then.
yeah,
Oh,
see to empathize with a person. And I know it's blurred and confused in a lot of places, but sympathy and empathy.
Yeah.
Sympathy usually is where you cry with or rejoice with the people, and you can't really change anything. But with empathy, you're trying to understand how they feel and what's going on, and still be able to constructively help them some. Although when we looked at the dictionary definitions up recently, it was like they're kind of fuzzy that way sometimes. But these answers, that's kind of what they're getting at.
As the leader of the project team, the project manager may be required to assess the competency of his or her team members. Occasionally, some weaknesses or areas of improvement will be identified. The project manager should B, communicate those weaknesses and establish a performance improvement program.
Yeah, B's good.
Number 13, the project manager must be an effective communicator to ensure that project stakeholders receive and understand project-related information and status. Prior to delivering information to the stakeholders, the project manager should attempt to A, research and understand the background and experience of the stakeholders before transmitting information. I think I'm gonna-
Yeah, I did. You had a question there. I was going to say, is that your answer or you
No.
good? Yeah, it is good.
As part of your project plan, you must develop an effective method of communication for your multinational team of stakeholders. You have several choices of media available. The appropriate action to take in the development of communication plan would be discuss the available options with the stakeholders and obtain their input. Use the standard media that has been in effect. Use multiple forms of media to ensure that everyone receives information. Obtain additional funding for project sponsor and develop project-specific communication infrastructure. I think A, with the stakeholders.
Yeah, it's a good one. This is funny because this isn't really an ethical question. This should be in the communications.
Yeah.
Good chapter. Note to self, move that question.
The integrity of a project manager is often challenged by a stakeholder who attempts to use his personal power to influence, to change the scope of a agreed upon deliverable. In these situations, the project manager most appropriate response would be, I picked A, to refer the stakeholder to the process for change documents in the approved contract.
Yeah, A's correct.
During project implementation, the client interprets a clause in the contract to mean that he is entitled to a substantial refund for work recently completed. You review the clause and disagree with the client's conclusion. As the project manager, which of the following actions should be taken? I said B, document the dispute and refer to the provisions of the contract that address interpretations and disputes.
Yeah, B is correct. Before reporting a perceived violation of an established rule or policy, the project manager should, they went with B, ensure that it is, there is a reasonably clear and factual basis for reporting the violation. Which is interesting because they also say, you know, even the rumor or hint of a violation actually may end up becoming that. So in this case, I still think that's a good answer, but some cases it may be still important to talk to your manager or somebody and say, you know, there seems to be something going on here, even if it's just a rumor. And if it's a rumor that's not true, let's clear it out and get rid of it.
Project managers can contribute to their organization's knowledge base and to the profession of project management most effectively by developing and implementing a project review and lessons learned process. A?
Yeah, it's correct. It's another one that could actually be in some other section than this. We need a few more ethical questions and a few less of these others that.
On 17, what was the right answer?
B was right.
Number 19, you receive a contract to perform testing for an external client. After contract award, the customer provides you with the test matrix to use for your 16 tests. Your vice president for engineering says that the customer's test matrix is wrong and she will use a different test matrix, which should give better results. This is a violation of the SOW. You should, let's see.
Should be D, isn't it? Ask the
Yeah, they went with D.
Oh,
Ask the client sponsor for clarification on which matrix to use.
okay.
In this case, the client and the sponsor seem to be the same people, so it's a project we're doing for them. So best to go that way.
Whoever gives the money is the final say.
Oh, that's
That you're an effective method of improving an organization's project management knowledge base is through coaching and mentoring.
Yeah, A is correct. I think that little handout we gave them is probably one of the best things to do with any kind of ethical question that pops up. Try to do the right thing, to be proactive, conflict of interest, no, avoid conflicts of interest, report conflicts of interest when they're clearly found. And if we don't know what to do, kick it upstairs, kick it up to legal, to senior management, whoever needs to get involved. And I don't done much in fast track, but I know in integration project management, there were a lot of questions. So for the chapter 4 section on ethical kinds of questions, one of my classes had time to do about 20 of those questions. It was kind of funny because it seemed like 5 or 6 of them were really ethical questions and not about doing the overall project management work. So you'll see them kind of interspersed. That's it for that. Boom. Now we're going to go into project resource management. I gave you a handout on it with some terms and thoughts. Project resource management. And it's interesting, they moved from the 5th edition to the 6th edition. They moved this one process from scheduling to resource management. Estimated activity resources used to be one of the scheduling processes. And it made sense both places. I think it makes more sense here because now it's talking about all resources and even when it was in scheduling, we were talking about people or equipment or materials, whatever we're gonna need. Hang on, there we go. So we got 6 processes here. 2 are gonna be in planning, plan resource management, estimate activity resources. Then in execution, we're going to acquire resources, develop the team, manage the team, and then in monitor control, we're going to control resources. So here's a more easy way to see visually how they're split up. Key concepts. Well, of course, with the project team members, having good understanding of what roles and responsibilities are going to be needed is going to be important. We as project managers, a lot of times, depending on the way the organization is set up, but we may be involved a lot in trying to get the key people that we need. Especially if we're not the only project going on, because a lot of times there's many projects going on at the same time and many key people that everybody wants. So if you're one of those, if you need some of those talented, very specifically expert people, you may have to work a lot with the other project managers and other teams to get those people. We want to acquire, manage, and motivate the team. In many organizations, if we are not, if we don't have the power and authority to give rewards and raises and stuff, then we have to look to other ways to motivate people. And we'll talk about some of those motivation theories later, but unless we're their direct boss and sign their paycheck and can give them raises, that can be a little more challenging. We also, in resource management, we're looking at those physical things we're going to need, the materials, equipment, supplies, whatever kinds of things we're going to be needing, and trying to get it in a efficient way. And one of the things that's been, well, this has been going for a number of decades now, but just in time in manufacturing has become really a logical way to do it. I don't know if I mentioned my harvester experience. Maybe I did already, and forgetting which class I did, but we had, I worked summers at International Harvester in Chicago. We had a place called the Tractor Works, which was on the near south side, 26th in California. 26th in California is known for this place across the street called Cook County Jail. This had nothing to do with Cook County Jail, although it was a sprawling thing. This goes back probably to the times when all the steel mills had acres and acres. A lot of these companies had acres and acres. But we would work like crazy at the beginning of the month to load tractors onto trailers or onto flat cars, railroad cars. And then we get past that big deadline, the 31st of the month, they would send us out to a warehouse.
The end of the month.
Yeah, end of the month.
Okay.
End of the month, they were like, gotta get them out. So we'd work, like 8 or 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours a day, maybe a little Saturday work. And then at the beginning of the month, there was nothing for us to do. Go sweep the floors or go count parts. And they had lots and lots of buildings. It was like this 9 or 10-story building that used to be an assembly line. I had a hard time imagining it because I'm used to assembly lines being like Ford plants and stuff where it goes flat and you just work your way down the line. This thing, they worked on one floor and brought things down by an elevator to the next floor and went back up. It was very compact, which was funny because they had all this land.
But that was the way to set up a factory back in the 30s.
Yeah.
In the 20s and the 30s.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that was how it was done, but it was funny just imagining going this way. Bring everything down in an elevator, go back to the next floor, and I'm down. At the time I was there, they just had bins and bins of cast iron parts, everything else, and they had us count the parts, which was like pretty silly. Even in those days, it was probably millions of dollars of steel and iron just sitting around rusting.
Castings.
Yeah, castings. Lots of stuff just sitting there. Kaizen, something we won't really get into too much in here, but had the idea of continually improving what we're doing, little improvements to make everything better. Total productive maintenance is a term that I hadn't seen used before in PMBOK. And theories of constraints we'll talk about a little bit. One of the things they began to realize, especially on the human side of it, is the emotional intelligence. about helping people and self-managing and becoming more aware of, things that'll help team members and others work together better. Self-organizing teams has been an approach that's been covered a number of different ways, but in the Agile world, that's really one of the key things that they have integrated into how they do the work. And we may have teams that are virtual or scattered. Things we need to consider: diversity of our people, physical locations of the different people or different groups. Are there some very specific industry-related resources that we're going to need? Obviously, we're in construction. We're going to be using certain kinds of construction equipment. If we're in IT, we'll be using our software gurus and developers to do stuff. How do we acquire our team members? And how are we going to manage them? And what kind of life cycle approach are we taking? Are we doing a predictive life cycle or agile approach or adaptive approach? And with the agile considerations, we want to maximize your focus on really working together and collaborating to get the best results. And they mentioned some things there. This was, I think, start to be a quote. It looks like I didn't finish the quote. Accelerated integration of distinct work, improved communications, increased knowledge sharing, and provide for more flexible work assignments. So some of the things we're going to be going through, well, inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. We'll talk about some different organizational structures and what kind of influence and power we have as project managers. What are some of those sources of that power? Some different leadership styles, some motivational theories, and some conflict management techniques. These are some of the challenges we will face as project managers. A lot of times people are only going to work with us temporarily, and then they're going to go on to do something else. So we don't have, it's not like we're in an old-fashioned silo where I'm the engineering manager and my people always work just for me. We'll probably have people coming and going quite a bit. And then nowadays too, with millennials leaving jobs every 2 years, we decide, I think. We're going to have a lot of churn perhaps of our people too that could make it harder. Yeah, the indirect staff management idea is getting at that fact that if we're in a matrix organization or a lot of various kinds of organizations, these people aren't our permanent employees, so they're going to not be under our direct control a lot. There will be different skill needs and things that we're going to have to try to get. Conflicts, well, conflicts will happen. And PMI takes a pretty good approach on conflicts, I think. Conflicts are good, or can be good, not necessarily good. If we're fighting World War III, it's not good, but if it's a thing that hooks new ideas and better ways to do stuff, alternatives, okay, so that's a good thing. Conflict of interest, well, we just talked about that in ethics. That's usually not a good thing. There may be cultural challenges, and in so many businesses, just the stress and pressure of work.
Saying time zone challenges are also there.
Time zones, yeah.
Yeah.
And in my world, that was a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah, I kind of was guessing that our India teams were basically working a second shift to be more in sync with the American teams.
When it comes to Australia or China, US team has to work second shift.
Yeah. One of my partner bosses, had to work. He started early in the morning and worked with India and Poland in the morning, and then he could go home and take a nap basically, because then our Japanese customer wanted to meet at 8 a.m. to start their day, which was about 10:30 at night, our day.
But what do you do with your meetings in between? You have to meet.
Yeah, you can end up.
He cannot take a nap.
Yeah, in his case, he was able to do something else or rest a little bit in the middle of the day, but still it made for a kind of a crazy day. Yeah, you're right though. If he had to meet with, say, the bosses here at noon or 1 o'clock or something, well, let's have a lunch meeting.
Well, I mean, that's not before he goes home. I mean, he could plan that, before he leaves, but it's tough.
Yeah, and I do think he met with the Japanese team at home. He was able to do that remotely, yeah. which is what I was able to do a lot too, because I remember our teams were scattered everywhere. And even when I was in Arlington Heights, they had 5 big buildings there, and my team was in four of the 5 big buildings. We were scattered. We didn't even co-locate for a long time. Eventually, we got together.
And there was acreage there too.
In Arlington Heights?
Yeah.
Pretty good bit. It was pretty dense with the 5 buildings.
But you could put on a lot of miles in your shoes, just walking from building to building.
Yeah, you could.
For meetings.
Yeah, right. But that's when we became more and more virtual and be calling in, even though your boss, in my case, my first boss was just, 3 doors down in an office. But the rest of the team was like, across the street or 2nd floor, 3rd floor, kind of scattered. So plan the plan. Plan resource management. I mentioned the quality management plan and scope baseline feeding into this. Our schedule, requirements docs, risk register, stakeholder register. Well, that makes sense. Part of what we're talking about here in resources is the different people. On the enterprise side, culture of the organization, where buildings or facilities are located, who's available, what kind of competencies do we have, what's going on in the marketplace if we need to pull in people. OPA side, what kind of physical resource management is in place, safety, security policies. Historical information from past projects will help us a lot with this a lot of times, because if we're not doing something brand new that we've never done before, probably using the same groups of people, maybe the same equipment and materials, same type of equipment and materials. Expert judgment, and a lot of times help us put together the initial requirements for the skill sets we're going to need, assess the different kinds of roles we're going to need. And even though we're not doing schedule directly here, in parallel to this, so we can probably start working on the level of effort and number of people we're going to need, or number of resources. And one of the things that PMI has emphasized the last few rounds is when we acquire people and bring them on, we also need to really have a good plan on when we're going to let them go at the end, and release them to go on to other work. Otherwise, the team will probably get to the point where, hey, the project's only got 1 week to go. I have no clue what I'm doing next. That would be disruptive, discouraging sometimes too. Different charts will help us. I mean, the work breakdown structure, we've already worked on putting that together. Probably have something like an organizational breakdown structure that can help. Resource breakdown structure, we'll have an example of that coming up. It's kind of like an org chart too, but showing the people part, but also the equipment, machinery, and things we're going to be using. We may use one of these assignment matrices, a RAM or a RACI or a RACI, and we'll have some examples of those coming up. Organizational theory sometimes will play into this, like depending on the kind of company we're in and how they do business. How do we manage people, and how do we move people around and deal with their performance and improve their relationships with each other and with new skill sets? Here's an example of a RAM. RAM and RACs are kind of similar. But here we're looking at the different assignments that we're going to need and who's going to be responsible. We've got different categories here of who's going to sign off, who's accountable, who's participating or reviewing. So we've got the specific work here, and they mentioned different people there. Like I said, the RACI is kind of similar, but the RACI stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consult, and Inform. In my other class, I know some of the people said they use this quite a bit, but they sometimes had a hard time deciding who was responsible and who was accountable. That those kind of get blurred sometimes. But here they actually put people in there, so you can see who's doing the work. Inform, like Anne probably isn't directly involved with these, so she's not too worried about getting deep into it. But she is accountable for the charter and developing the test plan. Sounds like a test manager almost. Although if she's creating the charter, it's kind of an interesting mix. Maybe it's a test project. This is a staffing management plan showing our staffing over time. And it's kind of interesting to me that when it says 1.0, that's like one person, 100%. Could be two people doing that work, but most of the time for the project manager, it'd probably be one person. And as we go down, you can see where, when we get down into this area here, this is when the real work is getting done. Got 10 developers, 2 senior developers going for a while, and that tapers down. This is helpful, I think, for planning our work over time. Now at first I thought that was talking about months, but when you look at the numbers or the dates up there, it's actually quarters. So this is a pretty long project going over a couple of years. It's another way to look at it, staffing by hours by week. And resource histograms like this help us a lot when we're doing our resource optimization, which is something we did back in schedules. As you can see, like in January 16, you need a lot of hours there, but if we could balance this off a little bit more, we've got less hours here, we can balance this work off. That may help a little bit more in making sure people are working 60 hours one week and 20 the next. So the outputs of this will be our plan. We'll identify the resources and how we're going to acquire them, what roles and responsibilities we're going to need, who's going to do what skill sets do we need. Usually shown in some kind of graphical form, like a organizational breakdown structure. And we're going to be on the resource, on the people side of it, deciding how we're going to be bringing on the staff, managing them and releasing them, and what kind of training will we need. Mentions that we may go through lots of iterations on this. Why? Well, kind of like everything else we're doing, we're getting a little bit more information, we're digging in deeper, getting more requirements, more risks, more quality issues. We're going through all these different things. And if we got these competing other teams using some of the same people or equipment, it explains why we have to go through a lot of cycles to get where we want to. More on the resource plan, how we're going to develop the team, control our resources. Rewards and recognition should be something that we build into this too. Team charter is actually something newer with this edition of PMBOK, although I think in the Agile world, team charters have probably been around a little bit longer. But within the charter, it should have these kinds of things. What's our vision or values of the team? How we're going to communicate, how we're going to do decisions, and resolving conflict, some specific meeting guidelines, and agreement by the team members on adhering to how we want to do this. And while we're doing that, we might have some updates to some documents like our assumption log and risk register. Assumption log, well, we assumed we were going to get the 20 people May 1st. It's not going to work. Or the equipment on May 1st, which may also add to our risk list.
So if we go back and look at 68. So yeah, as a project manager, how do we really know what the difference between a senior and a junior developer is? And how do we pick functions that they're going to perform? I mean, if we're asking for the resources, we should have a better understanding.
These people are more highly qualified, maybe the ones that have been around 5 years, 10 years, higher level of expertise and skills.
My question is more, how do we decide how many we're going to need? So, I mean, if this gets into, we need 10 people for these certain weeks.
Yeah, that's a bunch of people.
And we're going to overlap with the senior people too. How do we know we don't need 9? How do we know we need 10? How do we know we don't need 11?
That's probably one of the things that we're going to be estimating, either looking at what we've done in past projects. Kind of gets back to that idea of, are we doing rough order of magnitude kind of guesses, or is it predictive where we've done the same thing over and over and we're able to put like 10 people on the average on this and get the work done?
Yeah, I mean, that gets...
And it gets trickier too if those same 10 are also working on 2 or 3 other projects, which may mean we actually have 15, 20 people that are working for us, but only part-time. So that's the equivalent number, but it doesn't mean we got 10 bodies that are just working for us.
But it'd be nice to put like a dotted line below the 10, and then to say half days, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and come up with some kind of hours.
Yeah, and
along with bodies.
Yeah, a lot of times you do, and that's why something like this is showing the hours that were estimated for, in this case, like senior designers. 275 hours in a week, 280 hours, let's see. I'm trying to think how many people that would be. They're working full-time. Quite a few. As we're estimating the resources that we're going to need and the people we're going to need, especially, that's where I think this is more of a summary level thing, saying we need the equivalent of, and this is one of the things we did in my world too, like later on in the projects, we might have a high level planning resource for 10 people that we're going to do the testing. And then as we got closer to it, we developed it out more and put the assignments of the actual people in there and took that placeholder for.
Okay, if it's a placeholder, it's different, because then you can come back and reorganize it and say, I really only need 8.
Well, as you continue to plan.
Or I need 11.
Yeah. If this is a predictive project, we might have planned this out pretty much like this. And then you're right, as we get closer to it, testing is going quicker than we need to. We don't need all 10 people. Let's see if we can do it with 8, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we dropped the burn-in test, and so that frees up 200 hours.
Yeah. 9.2 then is going to be estimated activity resources. So this is a process of estimating the number of people, equipment, materials, supplies that we're going to need for each activity, and what kind of quantities. This is going to be very closely related to what we're doing in the cost section about estimating the cost. So resource management plan we just put together, the scope baseline. From the schedule side of it, the activity attributes may help us in estimating how many people or pieces of equipment we're going to need. That activity list will show that too. Assumption log, cost estimates, resource calendars, a risk register. We'll see eventually we're going to be talking about 2 kinds of calendars, and I think we might have already mentioned both of them. There can be resource calendars for individual equipment or people when you're taking vacation, that kind of thing. We'll probably have a project calendar that we'll use too to talk about how we're managing the whole project. The enterprise environmental factors side, where are the people, what skill sets do we have, the organizational culture, marketplace again. OPA side, we probably have our policies and procedures for how we handle staffing and supplies and equipment. Historical information often is very helpful. Some of the things we need to consider, this is more on the people side of it, but what kind of team roles are we looking for? We need some good leads, just a lot of workers, good reviewers, what skill sets going to be needed. In our pools of people that we have, what capability do we have? What's available too? Do we have some policies that are going to guide us in this? And what have we done in the past? We'll probably have something like a staffing matrix that we'll put together. There may be other things we need to consider. Expert judgment, bottom-up estimating. Bottom-up estimating, that should sound familiar. We've had that a couple times.
That's more accurate, right?
What's that?
That's more precise compared to the.
Yeah, bottom-up is considered more precise, also more time-consuming and costly. A lot of times when we're going to have the people that are going to do the work, doing this estimation work, then may be really helpful, but they're not doing productive work. Direct project work at that time. They're looking at more on the planning side of it, I guess you could say. So we're going to be taking these lower level details and building them up. We could do these top-down, like analogous or parametric. And one of the things we'll be doing too is looking at different alternatives for doing the work. I know in my world, a lot of times this was, do we do the work in Dallas or do we do the work in Poland? A lot of times the Polish team was a little bit more efficient, had more capacity, so we might do the work there rather than in Dallas, even though both have the same kinds of skills and can do the work.
Is that parametric? What are you referring to?
No, I'm talking about the alternative ways of doing the same.
Subcontracting it out, that's exactly.
Yeah. In our case, the pulling team was part of our group too. And actually the pulling team and the Dallas team were doing a lot of our hardware development and the software involved in that, which is called firmware. But the Polish team also had more capabilities. A lot of times they could do a lot of good things there.
Flexible resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny, and this is from the 10-mile view, it seemed like those teams were a lot more efficient than our team in Israel that always seemed to be playing catch up to try to catch up. Now, maybe they just didn't have enough people to do the work. When we were setting up schedules, we always had to plan that they weren't going to start on April 1st. They're probably going to start April 15th because they're still working on other projects. The outputs of this will be the resource requirements, types and quantities of resources we're going to need for each work package, our basis for those estimates, maybe some assumptions we've made, who's available, is it both internal or external sources that we need, resource breakdown structure will be kind of a hierarchical picture of this. There's 2 RBSs in PMI stuff. I don't think they're ever going to mix those up. I mean, they do some wacky questions, but resource breakdown structure, I don't think will ever be mixed up with risk breakdown structure. Those are pretty much 2 distinct areas. And updating some of our documents, maybe we saw some things we needed to add to the activities and the attributes and lists. Here's a simple sample. Here's the people side of the resource breakdown structure and the roles we're going to need, broken down a little bit. Materials and equipment. I think it's interesting because it used to be they just talked about staffing plans and staffing RBS, but now they've included all that other stuff in here too, the materials and the equipment we're going to be using. So in execution, we're going to have these 4 processes: acquire the resources, develop the team, and manage the team. So acquire the project team is the process of obtaining the team members we need, the facilities, equipment, materials, all the stuff we're going to need to complete the project. And kind of like I mentioned, if we're not the only project on the block, we're probably going to have to negotiate and work with other projects going on, other project managers to get the people we're going to need or the equipment. And if we can't get them, that's going to be, as it says there, it's going to cause problems probably with our schedule or budget. Hopefully not customer satisfaction, but it might. We're going to be delayed. Bunch of risks there. So we may look at different alternatives when we're short on people or equipment. So the big plan's feeding into this, and the resource plan that we put together. Procurement management plan might fit into this too if we need to sign contracts with third-party vendors, bring in outside materials or people. On the document side are project schedule, calendars, resource requirements, stakeholder register can feed into this. Environmental factors. HR is usually considered that group out there, or personnel administration, whatever they might be called. They're not directly part of the project team usually. So they're going to be important as far as supplying the resources we need for the people side of it. And OPAs, looking at procedures and policies we have are probably going to guide or influence the way we do this. Some things we need to consider: who's available, when. We're talking about skills. You know, they have the skill sets we need. Do we have a technical leader that we can pull in? What's the track record of these people? What have they done in the past? Personal interests. A lot of times that's going to become one of the things we can do to motivate if we don't have the dollar thing to motivate people. And dollars isn't always the best thing to motivate people. Some people like challenges. Some people like personal recognition. So we'll see that later when we look at motivation. What kind of people do we have? Are they team players? They introverts and like to just work alone, but they do good work, so we'd really like to have them on the team. Just let them sit in the closet and do their work.
Independent contributors.
Independent contributors, yeah. This is a multi-criteria decision analysis, kind of going through all these different factors that can relate to how we choose the team that we come up with. So a lot of different factors that can be involved with this. And then Nimesh, you mentioned this too, the international considerations become pretty important. We go on daylight savings time here. In India, they don't go on daylight savings time. So we're either 12 and a half or 13 and a half hours difference, depending on the time of year. So if we had key meetings, we had to be careful with that. And actually, Arizona doesn't go on daylight savings time either. So when we'd have an 8 o'clock meeting, which would normally be fine for them, and then became 7 a.m. for them, they would kind of go, hey, wait a minute, this isn't going to work. We'll be dealing with functional managers a lot of times, other teams within our organization. If we have to go outside, we'll be looking at those outside vendors and suppliers of people or equipment. And one of the important things is being able as a team to influence others. We don't always have to do everything ourselves. We've got team members that are connected pretty well with some of the functional teams and stuff and know who works well there. Well, let's bring them in on this too. In some cases, when they have pre-assigned staff, that makes it easier. Not always the case. And virtual teams, little FaceTime, although it seems like virtual teams are growing so much now, it's almost like we can have FaceTime with Hangouts or VC or what's the Apple one? FaceTime. FaceTime, yeah. So we could actually make the virtual teams almost like we're together. Used to be with just phone calls and slides being shown, like in WebEx or GoToMeeting. Didn't have quite as much of that. Acquiring resources. Halo effect is a term that's used to talk about how somebody may be really good at one thing, but not necessarily good at something else. And I brought in the Peter principle here too, because I thought that was kind of tied in with this, which came from Peter Drucker. But the idea is that, if a person's a great software developer, they'll make a great project manager. Maybe, maybe not. If it was that introvert that just liked to do the work, they may not be a great manager at the top level there. And the idea of Peter principle, I got to see occasionally too, has the idea that a person gets promoted one level above their competency. My boss's boss, that ended up causing the demise of our project office, was kind of like that. He really didn't know what everyone was doing. And we're doing a lot of good stuff. We had 50 people working for him, and a lot of good procedures, reports, tracking systems, everything were put together. And when he had an opportunity to present it to the other division, he kind of failed. And we got dispersed, spread out through the organization, and didn't recover for a long time, even on reports. We didn't have good reports for 2 years after that, which was pretty crazy. Yeah, he went on to work in Libertyville as an individual contributor after that, and then eventually went on to work in other companies. He was a nice guy, just didn't know what we were doing. Too bad. So the outputs of this would be those physical resource assignments, team assignments. Probably have like the directory or chart thing, but also showing roles and responsibilities. That's the wrong kind of roles, I just noticed. We're not talking about sandwich rolls or cinnamon rolls. 89 key. Resource calendars showing when the members are going to be available, and when they're not going to be available. Like we have vacations, plant shutdowns, things like that. Those can become important, or shared resources. Might have some change requests even at this point. You know, if we don't have the in-house people and equipment to do the work, might need to put in those requests to get outside help. Updates to our resource management plan and our cost baseline. Let me make a note there. Slide 89. Goals. Oh, I can still see it from here. Updates to a lot of documents, lessons learned register. I believe I've mentioned this a few times, but the lessons learned register is information that we're learning on this particular project, things that went well, things that didn't go well. Lessons learned repository, when they distinguish it, is actually that historical stuff, historical information.
Which nobody looks at.
Pardon me?
Which no one looks at. Which nobody looks at.
After the project's closed.
Well, that's what I usually say, you know, if lessons are going to get typed up and put in a drawer somewhere or file, and never look at it again, we'll probably make the same mistakes again.
All mistakes you can't actually fix.
That's true. Some mistakes you can't fix, and that might be a case for, let's not even try this kind of project next time, because we'll avoid it, you know, let's do something different. We'll see that when we're talking about risks. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. This was there. What's going on here? Did I miss something there? No, I guess I was going the right way. I think it bounced. Oh, I think I must have hit the clicker. 9.4 then is going to be developing the team. And so we're going to identify the skills we've got in any areas where we might need some training to add to those skill sets. The key thing in developing the team is not just added training, but also helping them to come together as a team. They want to work on building that team together, having an open environment to do work, really being able to collaborate and work together. Excuse me. So really what we're trying to do is get rid of my frog. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is come together really as a good knit together team, cohesive team where we can really do good work and build each other up, encourage each other, motivate each other. This is something that isn't specifically related to project management, but the idea of how teams come together. So Bruce Tuckman's idea of forming, storming, norming, performing, and journeying saw that groups, when they come together, go through these stages quite often. So forming, we're really looking to the lead of the group to give us some good guidance and stuff. Usually there's not a lot of agreement on what's going on, roles and responsibilities aren't clear. A lot of things are just kind of, why are we here? What are we doing? Storming, now we're beginning to fight it out a little bit. I don't want to do that. We might have cliques getting formed. Compromise may be the best thing at this point because we may not be able to move forward very much in this kind of situation. Norming is the idea, okay, now we're beginning to really gel and agreeing a little bit more on what we're going to be doing. Roles and responsibilities becoming clear. Big decisions can be made by the group, some others may be delegated to smaller groups of people. And so we're really beginning to come together well here. So here we're more like facilitators and enablers. Earlier on, it might have to be a lot more directive just to get things moving along. Forming then now we're in the groove. We're really focused, we're working well, overachieving. Disagreements can usually be resolved within the team. And so leaders here become even a little bit more hands-off, more like overseeing and delegating. Here's a picture of that too, with a couple little cartoon things. Storming one's kind of funny with a sword and a big hammer, looks like, or something, going to fight it out. So the big plan, the resource management plan in particular, out of the big plan is going to be an input, lessons learned register, schedule, team assignments, resource calendars. That team charter will feed into this. Any EEFs, no PAs. Tools and techniques. Are we using co-location? We have virtual teams. What kind of communication technology are we using? Do we have like a data warehouse or a specific place where everything's stored that everyone can pull up? I know we used a thing called Compass. I think Compass is somewhat similar to SharePoint, I believe. We have lots of folders and things out there for holding stuff. And we had a data warehouse that pulled in from all sorts of different tools and reports and stuff. Do we do video conferencing, audio conferencing, emails and chats? Don't mention it here, but I know in communications, it's becoming more and more important to be aware of social networks. What's going on with those? Interpersonal team skills, how do we deal with conflict, influence, motivate people, build up the team, rewards and recognition, training people where needed, doing assessments of both the individuals and the team, and probably having meetings to work through some of this. So the characteristics of an effective team: being interdependent, having a reason to work together, committed to working together, accountable as a team as a whole. A moderate level of competition and complexity is a good thing, because a lot of times that perks better ideas in different ways that we might not have thought of if we're doing it by ourselves. And being able to collaboratively resolve team issues and problems. Tools and techniques. I think we'll see this. We've seen this before. I think we saw it in quality, but we need top management to really be supportive in this, supplying the resources we need, the people we need, getting the commitment from the team members, using the appropriate rewards and recognition, possibly creating a team identity, dealing with conflicts, building trust up among the members, having the open communications. And we as the PMs need to be a good leader a lot of times in these teams, and motivating, guiding, counseling, coaching. There's some problems when teams don't come together very well, and some symptoms and things, frustration, unhealthy conflict, competition, unproductive meetings, low morale, low motivation levels, which impacts the work we're doing, late deliverables, more defects. Some of the problems can be, we've got conflicting goals or poor communication, different agendas on the personal level and the organizational level. They don't trust us. That's going to be a problem. In my world, it seemed like since Motorola reorganized every 2 or 3 years, or a year and a half to 2 years, that was very disruptive too. Who's doing what? Who's in charge now? What are we going to do? I'll go through all these, but these are some team building techniques. That was interesting. They still have donut days on here. Do you ever have donut days? Actually, my class in Gurnee, one student brought in some stuff for the local bakery for our class. I thought that was nice.
Oh yeah, some people used to do that.
Yeah. We had a Baskin Robbins ice cream day in my harvester office, or the industrial engineering office. I'd go around, take orders, and then when Baskin Robbins opened up the street, I'd place the order for like 10, 15 pints of ice cream. That was the lunch for a lot of people for that Friday.
That was calories for the day.
Calories for the day, yeah. Calories for the weekend probably, but some people would split a pint, other people just had the whole pint. But that was fun, and we also did played pinochle and stuff at lunchtime. We actually had a lunch break. It was really kind of nice. I don't think I've had a lunch break since then. It was actually just a lunch break. More often it was like, get the lunch, go back to your desk and keep working.
Sandwich, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of different ways to do this. I know we used to have what they called town halls. And the town hall basically was a meeting off and off-site. I know we went to the Arlington Heights, one of the hotels near the racetrack up there, and we'd have a beautiful spread of continental breakfast things, kind of the state of the state messages and how the company was doing, how we were doing on our particular programs.
Everybody, so 2,000 people showed up there.
That was
They broke it up into groups.
It was a pretty big one. And before my time, they used to have a full day one with lunch and supper put in there too. As things began to slim down, we did less and less of that. But it was kind of neat to be able to come together. And a lot of times too, it was face to face with people that were in one of those other 4 buildings that you never saw. So it was a little bit of FaceTime, real FaceTime there. Outputs of this, maybe team performance assessments. How are we doing overall as a team? We on time, within budget, good quality. We've done some training perhaps along the way, so we've got some improved skill sets. And hopefully, if we're doing things right, this will help in reducing the turnover of the team members too. Once we got millennials that wanted to leave in 2 years anyway. That was a joke. Sort of.
How do you retain? I mean, that's part of your responsibility.
Yeah.
How do you retain?
How to retain.
How do you keep them challenged so they want to stay?
Yeah. I read an interesting article today that was talking about how there's a migration of millennials actually to small towns, and how there's it's not in the big news because all we hear about is the gridlock in Washington, D.C., but how there's a lot of small towns that are actually having people come back there and go away from the big cities like the New Yorks and the LAs, and doing some creative things, working together, doing a lot of community things. Like the mayor works with a company and maybe some local people to set up something new, and how some of these towns are being revitalized and everything. They mentioned an example, one in Minnesota, Blue Moon, I think it was called. No, not Blue Moon, Blue Water, something like that, which had been an old thing that had been kind of deteriorating. The downtown area was kind of falling apart. Now there were a lot of these businesses getting revised and revitalized. And they mentioned Kansas City being another example of that, where they've done a lot of things there to become more like an Austin, doing a lot of things to improve what's going on there. That's a little aside, but it was kind of interesting that it was the stuff that you don't hear about in the big news, because it was just the local groups and people working together. Probably have updates to our documents, maybe new things now going into our enterprise factors, like into the training records for people who've got some new skills. And under OPAs, maybe some updates on training requirements where we assess the various people. 9.5 that's going to be manage the team. And I imagine we're probably about ready for a break.
Yeah.
How about a break? Seeing blurry eyes and
After a full day of work, if you have to spend 3-4 hours in the evening, it's tough to go down.
yeah. Did you work today? No. But for those that have worked today, it's
I was supposed to start, but I'm studying management, so I'm wondering after what happened after the
yeah, I agree. You know, full day work this is a hard, often a hard time.
I would also like to take a Saturday class instead.
Yeah. Well, perhaps we will have one soon. I know
Do you have any dates going on or?
I'm wrapping up the Saturday class in Gurney next Saturday.
Oh, next Saturday.
Yeah.
Do you have any batch coming up?
I assume I will. Paul usually kind of structures what's going to come up next.
Me too.
Because he's got a better idea of how many students are available, what things they're looking for, whether they're looking for business analysis or big data or PMP, various things like that.
And how the students usually get like after batch started?
Pardon me?
Some of the students usually get after the batch started actually.
Well, some students do get up to that
Like when
start.
I made it first time, I didn't tell you that, but we had a batch started yesterday, so if you want to join. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it does kind of pop people in sometimes, but the good
Yeah, he
thing.
made a class for us so that we could join this one. But
Yeah,
you, me,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
It's the, I didn't tell you that on the phone, but we had batch started yesterday. You won.
One of the things that I do like about what we do here though is, this is one of the harder classes, I think, and there's some of the others that are not simple either, but you can always sit in another class, or, and I know schedule-wise, that doesn't always work perfectly. But if you have to come to an evening class or Saturday class, it'd be nice to have one in Schaumburg at Wednesday morning, but if you're working or doing something else, that wouldn't quite work. But we do work around a lot to try to help students. That's why actually my Saturday class, because there isn't a Tuesday, Thursday morning class, and 2 of the 4 students got done. Oh, great, they got it done. That's why we're here, to help, tune you up for going to that next job. So we changed it to a Saturday class, but for one of the students, it was really tough because he was basically putting in 12-hour days and working like crazy, and there was no time even to study during the week.
No, I was so hungry when I came back, because I need those
So
days.
even having the Saturday
So
class
I
was hard.
went to Starbucks and I finished 2 things, the croissant.
Anybody want to eat blueberry fig bar?
Donut day? You brought it?
Well, they might be a little healthier than donuts, but I found them at Target.
Blueberry.
They have these at the train station, if I go downtown, which I haven't in a long time, but they sell these for $1 at the train station, which is actually not a bad price. But this box you can get at Target, so they're 50 cents each.
50 cents.
Oh, nice, that's awesome.
oh,
Uh,
big one. Oh, blueberry.
You want
Okay, thank you.
one? Yeah, my kids love these too, which is great, because normally they're all
Healthy
about,
too.
sugar, sugar, sugar. Yeah, have some fiber and some other stuff.
How was your interview? How was your interview?
I got 2 jobs.
Well,
Today. Today.
Today? How was your interview today?
Huh?
How did
You did?
Hard job. They're like, give her the offer today, give her the offer, I said, you can wait till tomorrow. No, send it to her today. I'm driving, they're calling me, the offer is in the mail, please check it out, please return it, blah, 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 all that.
Oh my
That's
God.
awesome.
I'm like,
Wow.
yeah.
So when do you start?
They want me to start
Yesterday?
tomorrow, like, I'm like, take a break. This is when I take a break.
Yeah, are you gonna finish the class and then start, or?
This class, no, I'll start, I'm thinking maybe in 10 days or 2 weeks or something.
After the,
Means not next week, the week after. Want to finish at least one certification before I join.
What other certifications are you going for?
One is the ACP that was long pending. I got dinged with an audit, so by the time I got my clearance and all that, it was a couple of months down the line. So that is pending.
these are really good.
Then
Aren't they?
ACP.
I'm so surprised. When I found them, I'm like, oh man, these are my new favorite, because I've bought so many of these kinds of things, and sometimes they look really good and they're not.
and I want to do this certification before I finish the class. So,
Oh my God, have you
by the time
already
I'm done with
scheduled it?
class, I want to finish them.
Have you already scheduled it?
No, I have not. Then after that, I have to do certification.
Yeah, Paul hasn't returned my email.
No?
I should have come today. I should have.
You texted him?
Well, I texted him,
I haven't even reviewed them.
Oh, me too.
I
I
was here,
didn't
I came here last week, so yeah, I texted him.
Right,
And I just kept bugging him for like 2 or 3 days. He finally called me and then he texted. He said at the time, so I came in last week. and,
How was that?
Who's in mine?
Yeah, so all my stuff is submitted. It's just a matter of actually.
I was supposed to go,
Oh,
I was supposed to go
Thursday this week, I
face-to-face
should
for
know
both.
whether or not.
So then before that, I decided to meet my coach,
Yeah, I'm not in
this,
too big of a
coach.
rush, but
I'm trying to. line
Because we
everything
get
up.
I got the,
And
like,
actually asking them to.
For this
sign-
time.
I mean, give me the, sign me
For
on to
scholarship for
the,
the funding, right?
Right, so I can meet my coach. So I went to meet my coach, and then I got a call saying, you don't have to come, you can take
So I
the
can
call at the front.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh,
So I told him, I
this
said, can I
person
take the call here?
I
He
need
has
to get it so that I
I
can.
took the call, and then the second, the 3 o'clock
I got
interview, they called me and they said,
so I got-
this, that was an Overbrook, and they said, you can take the call at
You
home.
have to
So
have
I told him I'd stay on and
Well, I have to have the.
in both cases, I said, this is a lucky room.
Is it a
Within 12 months.
No.
Hire.
I said, this is, I said,
Get
I thought-
hired on.
Yeah.
12 months.
I said, this is a lucky room, you know, I've been waiting so long.
It's like,
I went to meet my coach, you know,
Can't get yourself out of it.
today before the
all
interviews.
this new stuff that you.
And
you know, you-
then while I was meeting him, I got a call from the first interviewer saying that you don't have to come in face to face, we can take it on the phone.
Yeah, I'm feeling like.
So I told Chris, I said, can I take the call here? So he said,
My
yeah.
month's gonna end in
So I
June.
could call in his office.
And they're nowhere.
Then I have a second interview here in
I mean,
Oakville.
surprise, surprise,
They
right?
called me and they said,
And
you
they
can
just
take
laid
a call
off
on my
half of our
phone.
team.
So I told Chris,
And
I'm going to take the second call here. He said,
two other
okay.
contractors were
I got- I got both. I said, this is a lucky room.
While they were- while they were trying to
I've
move to
been
new
waiting for a
platform,
job
and
for
that's
like
not going
10,
well
full-time
either.
job for like 10 months.
So it's like, okay.
And I get both of them right here.
One day?
Tell us.
One day.
I mean, these were both final interviews, but I didn't know that they would quickly put the offer right away. So I thought usually they'll review and come back and all that, and then I'll have
It's also
time
the
to
end
think
of the
about
fiscal
it.
year,
So
so it would be like.
they're like,
That's
no,
a-
we shouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
That's a good indication though, that they,
Which-
both of them were finally thinking, yes.
I don't know if they even
You're the
have
one.
approvals yet in their
I
budgets.
know, that is a good indication because I've had instances the last few months where they
Don't
said,
really
yes, we're
shoot
interested, and they come back and say, maybe
Why
not yet, and then we cancel, so
Yeah.
all that has been
Those
happening.
delays and stuff.
Delay, and then we cancel the whole thing, you know, the whole, we don't need another resource.
Basically,
So I've had
it's called digital editing.
I've had a lot of that happen.
So many variables, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Getting
little
hired,
person
is
between
one of
the
the
people
people
who write
outside
the
of hiring managers
and
control.
the
So now I'm
Versus
saying,
the
Trish, I should just grab the
just-
first one that comes my way, you know.
So,
rather
and
than
then the
like-
HTML and lay it out.
So did you decide between which job you're in?
No, I'm just thinking
What
about
am
it.
I doing? Why am I here? Anybody could do this. And then I
That's good.
realized.
That's a good
no,
problem.
no, it's
That's exactly what Chris was saying, it's a good problem to
You're
have.
taking a lot of
Travelers power, good and
the,
bad.
yeah, you're taking all the friction from both sides. That's how they think. That's-
You're working during the day?
I'm not working during the day, but I had an interview today. And so then by the time I went downtown and came back, it was such an early day, I was like, oh.
Oh, boy. How'd that interview go?
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Now that, client, now that I have a client interview, that was Tech Systems.
Tech systems?
And, their client is, TransUnion.
Oh.
So if they like what, if they say okay, then Tech System is a go. They've done my they've done my references and all that, and
Yeah.
everything.
Mhm.
And they're doing the background check this week, and TransUnion says yes, so start July 9th.
Oh, well.
So lucky.
Good, good.
But
That is lucky.
Yeah,
One
it's
by
still
one,
lucky
all
part.
getting the job.
I hope it's good.
You already started something or?
No, that's not enough, because I can't commit to the date in which they gave, so he's gonna try and keep it open, and we'll see. I mean, but I just know based on the fact that either I sit and do it now, or
It's not gonna get done yet.
within 12 months of hire, you
Yeah.
have to still have that PMP, so then you'll be back out of the door again.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's like,
So they don't want to give time, but they want that PMP certification.
yeah, it'll give you 12 months, but I mean, once you get on the job, you can forget about, all-
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's like I say, my student, Bernie, that's working the 12-hour days right now.
Yeah.
He's actually more of in a consulting role. He used to work with construction projects like, building a new road or upgrading the road in a town and stuff. Now he's more on the other side telling them what to do. He dealt mostly with federal things, and he said on the state level, these people are micromanaging him and asking for all sorts of crazy stuff. He lives way up there, like in Lincolnshire, not Lincolnshire, Lindenhurst or something like that. Has to come down to Naperville and Aurora, work on some of these different projects. Sometimes they have a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah,
he's-
they start early.
Yeah, so he's getting up crazy early hours, getting
Coming
home
out of the
late.
house at 5, yeah.
Which is why it's 12-hour days, and I mean, into Saturday now, I'm not really very with it, because he hasn't had a chance even to do a lot of the reading during the week. That's tough.
With the job itself. When you keep like 2 or 3 sessions in a row, then it's totally.
Yeah, even harder.
Out of.
I know, when I was at UPS, I took one class at Keller down in the city, in project management. And it's fun, kind of right by me, because I was working 10, 12-hour days, and really didn't have a chance to really absorb it or do the proper study to get it in. Done it well a couple times since then. Well, that's why I do recommend get your PMP and then keep it. Don't let it slide.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. I mean, time-wise and.
Yeah.
effort
Oh,
for-
you mean to say keep renewing it is what you say?
Yeah,
Every
keep
3 years.
turning in.
Every?
5 or 3.
Every 3 years, you have to turn in 60 professional development units. And 60 development units sounds like a bunch, but it's not really that hard, because you can get credit, partial credit for your work experience while you're working those 3 years. You can get credit for
Watching the videos.
watching videos,
Webinars.
taking classes.
Do we need to go through the exam again or just?
No, you don't need to go through the exam, you just need to keep current.
Oh,
Attend trade shows.
It's not like real estate where you do the exam every 2 years. And real estate professionals have to take, because I'm a realtor, but I don't use my license.
Yeah.
Every 2 years you have to renew it.
But don't let it expire.
A lot
Same
of,
thing.
a lot of things are like that, where you have
Don't let
to.
it give, yeah.
And I'll take it on the
That's
last
it,
day. Like, I almost didn't, then I said, last day, let me just go write it, and even if I fail, also what's the big deal? And every time I managed to just by.
Sweep by.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good one, you only have to take it once, and that's why I
This is
recommend taking
really
it
good.
once. And just
That's
turn in your,
really good, yeah.
and there's like 7 or 8 different ways of getting credits too. I mean, I'm teaching, I get credit for teaching. How about that? I think I'll get credit for revising the material too that we
For
teach.
sure.
So, and like I say, work experience, those seminars, those monthly PMI chapter meetings,
The dinners, yeah.
get a nice dinner out of it, and 1 PDU just for listening to the speaker. So, yeah, there's lots of ways of doing it. I should pull that list up again, because like I say, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Yeah.
You can volunteer with a local organization. One of my friends at Motorola was the secretary of the Chicago chapter for a year.
Nice.
Another credit.
So the title of this is different in the book. It says ITTO, so are they the same thing? Believe they are.
all right.
108, it says manage team ITTO.
This one. I might have one more page or one less page.
No, this one, the next one.
They both have marriage design.
Yeah, the same, the data flow that you have, it says ITTO.
Oh, yes, that was my earlier edition then. Most of these, I was just using data flow to show how things are feeding into that particular
okay.
process and feeding out.
Okay,
This is the one that should say ITTOs
okay, so
only.
that should be data flow then.
Yeah, inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. And then I usually breeze through these, because the next slide then I spell out the inputs more completely anyway. So what we're doing here is managing our team members and their performance, giving feedback, resolving issues, and managing changes to try to optimize our performance on this project. So the big plan, the resource management plan, the issue log, the lessons learned register, assignments, the team charter. Now we're in execution, so we got some information coming into reports on our work performance. So our plan versus actual compared to scope, schedule, cost. And it's going to help us too in deciding what rewards and recognition we might need to make sure we get included. We'll be doing assessment on the team. And our OPAs probably have certain things for perks and bonus structures and things. I know in my world, when I first started, it seemed like we had lots of t-shirts and pullovers and all sorts of great things. When our division, when one of the technologies got kind of tabled, which was called WiMAX because it was replaced by Wi-Fi. We had all these perks and things for pens and pencils. I got a Post-it note pile that was like 3 inches tall. I've just about finished using it up, and that was how many years ago? 6 or 7 years ago that I got that. Saved me a lot of money on Post-it notes. And my grandkids like to mark all of them too. Tools and techniques, dealing with conflict management. They cite 5 techniques, although some of these are doubled up here. You can see withdrawal or avoid, smooth or accommodate, compromise and reconcile, force or direct. It's kind of the dictator approach, but not necessarily a bad dictator. Collaborate and problem solve. So we'll be looking at different ways of making decisions, and we want to work as much as we can being aware of the emotional intelligence things that might bring up or bring down people. Under influencing, talking about active listening, really looking to sell and persuade the team to do what we want. Gathering information, trying to reach agreements. And we might use the project management information system tools. So I think this is more related to doing the direct stuff with people. So here's those techniques again spelled out a little bit more. Collaborating or problem solving, seen as the best way to do it. Really bringing in all of the different perspectives, coming up with a consensus. And they see collaborating or problem solving really as being that win-win kind of approach. Compromising, reconciling. There'll be some satisfaction, but both parties had to give up something. So that's why they see compromise as a lose-lose. It may be still our best overall solution if we can't come up with something everyone agrees on. Withdrawing or avoiding is the idea of backing out. You know, they mentioned picking your battles and times and places. Maybe certain things, you know, we can't work with that right now. We've got something important going on. We've got a deadline tomorrow. Let's focus on that. Table this other discussion or this conflict and work on it Wednesday. Smoothing or accommodating is kind of the idea of building on what we agree on rather than focusing on those things that we're in disagreement on, trying to build that up more. And then forcing or directing, okay, we're doing it this way. I used to crack up with one of my managers that always talked about working with his team was like herding cats. I just can imagine the cats scrambling all over the place. I know he had to do this quite a bit. So, okay, this is what we're going to do, and you have to be more directive with them. Otherwise, they'd be just all over the place and not getting anything done. It cracked me up constantly because he was constantly herding his cats, apparently, because they were not a real cohesive kind of group.
I don't think the cats, they listen to you if you hurt them. They don't listen to you if you hurt them.
You heard them?
I have 2 cats.
Yeah.
Herd them.
Heard.
Like herding, like
Herding, like a
Oh.
sheep herding.
Yeah, bring them.
Can
No,
you
not
herd-
not pounding on.
herd.
How can you herd
Herding.
cats?
Herding them,
Herding.
like a shepherd, yeah.
It's not possible to herd.
Well, that's the point, yeah.
That's exactly. So you get 10 together and 2 run away.
And you get those 2 back, and the other 8 run away.
That's exactly. Went off in a different direction.
Wasn't there a Super Bowl commercial, herding cats? It was like one of the consulting companies.
Oh, was it?
Oh.
Many years ago. It was a Super Bowl commercial where, you know, like how they have a bull run. in
Yeah.
Spain?
Oh, yeah.
They had like
A cat run?
Yeah.
some similar, yeah,
And they all went all over the place.
exactly.
That's fun. Conflict management. Well, conflict's going to happen. It's inevitable. And so what we really need to do is figure out how we're going to work through conflict and try to be creative in what we do with it. It's often caused by those things, you know, scarce resources, scheduled priorities, personal work styles, conflict with other projects and things too. So what we want to do with conflict is really try to work through and come up with good solutions, maybe something different than we were thinking about originally. And we want to be open about conflicts when they come up. We need to try to separate the issues from personalities, which is sometimes quite a challenge. And really try to build on the positive things and then work through those things that we disagree on. We want to manage these things before they become World War III or a major blow up. So initially what we want to do is, try to help the team resolve their conflicts, perhaps be a facilitator in that level, allowing the people to have their says and actively listening to them, trying to get those emotions and personalities separated out from the real issues on the project. And ideally, we want to try to come together and collaborate and come up with a good solution that everyone agrees on. Not always possible. That's why compromise still may be the better of other solutions. The outputs of this, maybe some new change requests. Maybe we do have to change some staff because they don't agree. Updates to our plans, perhaps like a new role that we've defined in our team. Perhaps uplaying some changes maybe to the baseline or for schedule or cost. Updates to our documents. New information going into the environmental, into personnel administration or HR. Appraisals of the team members and new skills that they might have. So leadership styles, there's some different leadership styles we can have. Some of these kind of overlap a little bit, but some are more distinct. Like directing sounds a little bit like that one we had with in that earlier part there. Facilitating, coordinating the work that others are doing, coaching. That was a role I played a lot in my last few years at Motorola, because we a lot of times had new project managers that had been great developers, great software developers, and usually had pretty good management skills, but they weren't real savvy on how to put together a schedule or make resource assignments and plans. So I ended up doing quite a bit with that. Supporting, autocratic, consultative, pulling ideas up, which to me is kind of considered too, similar to consensus when we're trying to come up with a group agreement. Delegating, setting goals, letting the team do the work. I had one manager at UPS that we called the Teflon man. His work would come into his office and whoosh, slide right off his desk and into our laps. And it seemed like nothing stayed in his office. He had this nice clean desk. Okay, here's a new request. Boom, right out to us. He eventually did get more involved, but a lot of times it just seemed like he was sitting in his office, just doling out stuff and not doing as much. Laissez-faire is kind of the idea of somebody that's really hands-off, lets the team do their work. My last manager at Motorola was like that. She was very hands-off and actually canceled our weekly staff meetings because we were all program managers and we all pretty good. And I actually started occasionally setting up a meeting with her because I really wanted to know more specifically what I was working on, make sure that we're in sync. I think she had the big picture idea pretty good, but I was worried about some of the details maybe not coming through. We can have different kinds of power. We may have something formal that's given to us, by our position, certain authority that certain positions give. Rewards, maybe we'll give out rewards for good work. Penalty, the opposite. Penalizing people for things that don't get done. Expert would be, you've got good technical expertise in this particular area of software development or project development. Referent, referring to somebody in higher authority. Sponsor said to do this step first. Referent can be good. In the old world, like in Chicago, referent was, well, my uncle is the head of maintenance. We got to do it this way. Or we're, referring to some relative that is a higher position or something. So it wasn't always a good thing. Rewards and recognition should be tied in with our performance, something we have control over. We need to understand cultural differences and what would be appropriate rewards in different cultures and countries. And we got to distinguish sometimes between team and individual rewards too. I know over the years, it's always been a hard thing sometimes to come up with something that made sense on those. You give it to the whole team and you got a slug on there that's not doing any work and everyone's kind of pulling him along and covering for him. Well, that feels kind of awkward sometimes. But then individual rewards weren't always dealt out in a good fashion either. But really, you need some good information there. Good. That's where you need your leader, project manager, really to work with the team closely, know who's doing what, who's doing working well, who's not. Giving out rewards should be done on a timely basis. Public, and I said where appropriate, because if we have that introvert, they may not want to go in front of 300 people and get a reward. They might like you to just bring it to their desk and give it to them.
Send it to me at home.
Yeah. Got a little quiz here. I have an answer sheet for this too. We're going to be taking these things on the left here and drawing lines to the things on the right. In this case, there's only 4 things on the right. We got 5 things there, so we're not going to use everything. So facilitating, directing, delegating, coaching, or consensus. First one is I want every module to have a code walkthrough. I need to see the results before I allow the work to proceed. Yeah, it's directing. That's a good risk to consider. Does anyone else have other concerns with this approach?
Facilitating?
Yeah. You guys figure this out. Let me know what you decide. It's the Teflon man.
Delegate.
Yeah.
Delegating.
Yes, we could skip that step. However, if things go wrong, we could lose 3 months of work and jeopardize the project. We need a decision that everyone agrees with.
Consensus.
Yep. A few more of these. A little different setup here. Now we got 5 on 5. Formal, penalty, expert, referent, and reward. These are going to be, I think, pretty simple for you. If you miss another deadline, I'm putting you in probation.
Penalty.
Putting you in the penalty box. Yeah. Yeah, it's a silly request, but he's the boss's nephew.
Referent.
Yeah. So he's implemented wireless technology in several platforms. He's perfect for leading the architecture team.
Expert.
As the project manager, I require you to submit the test results to QA.
Informal.
Formal.
You're our best consultant, so this year you're getting a sizable raise.
Reward.
Rewards, yeah. You might have marked them in, but here's a little answer sheet on it too. Too thin. Ended up having some thicker paper up from Gurney. I was trying to pull them apart and they didn't pull apart. Motivation. So why is that important? Well, it helps us in really making the team more productive. And in a lot of cases, if we're in a functional or weak matrix type structure, we don't have a lot of perks that we can give up. So really understanding what motivates different people can be an important factor. We're going to look at 4 different theories. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Hertzberg's motivational theory or hygiene theory, McGregor's theory X and Y, and McClellan's theory of needs. I took another one out here and then Rita mentioned it again. It wasn't in PMBOK anymore. Room's expectancy theory is to be in this list too, but I don't think you're going to see that, so that's why I removed that one. This is a picture of what Maslow's hierarchy looked like. This has been in psychology and counseling for a long, long time, because I learned about this back in the 70s, I think. The idea that we have certain basic needs, and we get the basic needs done, we can go to a little higher level as we get more things worked out. Esteem, eventually self-actualization. I think this is a nice thing, but it was also kind of assuming a lot of the humanistic psychology things that we're getting better and better and better. Well, I think we can see that not everyone's getting better and better and better. We've got that potential, I think, for doing this. But unfortunately, a lot of us aren't becoming self-actualized. It's interesting, but to me, it doesn't really recognize the human nature completely. We're not all getting better and better and better. Hertzberg's motivational theory kind of breaks things down into two categories. The hygiene factors, which are the basic good things. Got a job, some job security, good working conditions. This gives us general satisfaction. Usually doesn't make us dissatisfied. It may not really motivate us. On the motivation side, though, we saw like that sense of personal achievement or status, something challenging, more responsibility, things that stretch us and make us grow. Those are the kinds of things that for a lot of people become, higher motivators. Theory X and Y I learned a lot about when I was at UPS. UPS was trying to become an accepting, diverse company. They were still truck driving managers, and my way or the highway was still often the rule there. But Theory X, the idea usually taken by top management that we got to really keep on these people all the time. They're lazy, they're bums, they're not going to work hard. We just have to constantly keep on them. Whereas Theory Y is almost the other extreme, where we assume that people can be creative, productive, if we set up the right environment for them. And so what we want to do is really create that open environment for people to be productive. I think most companies are somewhere in between, but UPS really seemed like a Theory X place for a long time. Picture kind of showing the same thing again. McClellan's theory of needs, I think, is kind of interesting. These aren't really built out much in PMBOK, but Rita talks about these in her book. Seeing how there's 3 areas of certain people need one of these things. So if achievement's a big deal for you, probably want something challenging and hard to do, but then you get recognized for it. Recognition is pretty important for someone who has a primary need of achievement. Affiliation to me sounds more like the person that thus likes to be on the team. A team member, work with the team, rather be just involved with the team and not worried about as much about getting that recognition. Power, this is used actually, I think, in a good way. People that are good at organizing and leading things and moving things along. That's one of their main things they built into their way of doing work and doing business. That can be a big motivator for them. Meeting management, I think we've kind of tapped into that a few times, but the idea of meeting management really is having a specific meeting only for things that you really need to have meetings for, having a clear purpose for it, clear agenda, start and end times, get everyone involved, keep on that schedule when you have a start and end time, get the minutes out right away, any follow-up actions or action items out right away. That was something I think we slowly learned over my 10 years at Motorola, because when we started, we had those 3.5-hour meetings that dragged every week, that dragged on, and were largely blah, blah, blah about not much anything. And we eventually got much wiser with that. Rather than let everybody report on every project, everything going on, good or bad, we actually simplified it down to project's going well, great, keep it up. Project not going so well, okay, let's talk about it. What kind of help do you need? Do we need to escalate something? Just really focus more on the things that were not working quite right or needed help.
We used to have a daily meeting in a conference room, and it would go from anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
We switched it to a stand-up meeting, and it never went more than 15 minutes, and it averaged 10 minutes.
Yeah. That's
same meeting.
Just
a different format.
Different format and standing up. The stand-up meeting is one of the central parts in Agile too, is doing something like that.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Let's see, there's 3 parts to it, right, I think?
Yesterday, today,
Today.
issues.
Yeah, and then issues, what do you need help with?
Constraints.
Yeah. 9.6 is going to be control resources. And a bunch of inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. I'll go to the next one. So the big plan, all the parts of that. Resource management plan being probably one of the key ones. Lots of documents. we got work performance information now. We're monitoring control, but we've got a lot of stuff that's been done now, so we got some things we can look at. We may have contracts or agreements in place, and maybe pulling some things in from our processes and guidelines from the OPAs. Tools and techniques, may do some analysis of what's going on in the data, look at different things that we can work with. Performance reviews, maybe some trends analysis. We see some of our resources are getting out of line or we're not using as much. You might want to go back and look at what's going on with it. We'll look at interpersonal and team skills, probably negotiating, influencing. Might use some of these tools from PMIS, Project Management Information System. And probably going through different ways of solving problems and stuff when they come up. That almost seems like a sequential list. We identify a problem, find it, investigate it, analyze it, solve it, and then check later to see if our solution worked. The outputs of this would be work performance information, maybe change requests, updates for our big plans, updates for our documents, and that's resource management.
That's it.
That's it.
Y'all, did you want more?
And it's only been 45 minutes since the last break. Would you like a short break and jump into a quiz?
You can jump in quiz.
We can jump into the quiz and keep it done early, right? For short break.
Doesn't have any water. That's including this.
This one. And then
I don't know, it's been no way since.
Yeah, this one doesn't have the information.
yeah, I think it to be annoying, just turn off the screen.
And we will, so we got the page.
This exam is open book entrance.
Was that?
This PMP is open book, open book.
I don't know, it's not open. That would be
I
nice.
have to go back and look at,
Yeah, I'm gonna go back.
we can look at the material for answering.
This open book.
That's how the PMP is.
No. Enjoy it now.
In a perfect world, yes.
Big licenses like big Newtons, and they do have big in the end. Big ratings.
So there's blue right there. That's right.
Just remember that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it says that it's big, you got to be cheap.
Oh, so
Still,
you give them
it is,
all of
big
them,
rock.
even if it's not.
yeah, yeah.
Are we doing chapter 10 today as well?
Hope to.
I was hoping for a no. And next week is, no, not next week is not
Next week is Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
And then also at the schedule, so we've got 4th of July week empty, so we've got time to get caught up or refresh.
Get caught up,
Yeah, get caught up, yeah.
finish
And
the
then how
exam.
many more weeks do we have after that?
2.
2 more weeks after that? After the 4th of July weekend, we have 2 more weeks?
Yeah, July 11th and 17th.
What is the reason to keeping that in sequence?
Pardon me?
What is the reason to keep those 2 classes in sequence next week? Consecutively,
The
the availability is,
way Paul set it up.
that's Paul's question.
Yeah, and I need to reemphasize that, especially for an evening class, no reason. Well, I don't think for any class it should be 2 days in a row like that. Basically, you have to look ahead and think, okay, next week I've got these 2 classes, so that's like 4 chapters I have to go through. If it was Monday and Thursday or something like that,
Yeah.
then you got some time in between to work on. You almost have to anticipate ahead, like for next week, okay, between now and next Tuesday. Of course, you got a week, but that means I wouldn't just prepare for Tuesday, but I'd prepare for Tuesday and Wednesday, especially if you're tied up.
Oh my God.
Plus, I would keep like specific day for the class, not like random day.
This is kind of unusual. He was trying to also accommodate my schedule. Like this week, I've got meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday night. But I would have rather had, Mondays and Thursdays or something like that. Or once a week. My parenting class is down to once a week.
Once a week is so good.
Yeah.
So we're finished on July 18th?
I think it was July 17th.
That, this way you can get certification quickly, you know, you don't have to go.
And you go to 18 to
Oh my God, no way.
We'll
There's no way.
talk about that more in the review section, but yeah, you do want to put together a goal for yourself and a plan on how to get there.
Yeah.
I think Paul typically says 4 to 6 weeks after the class, you should go for it. I think as a goal, that's a good idea. I still personally emphasize when you're confident that you can pass it, then go for it, not just
Yeah.
6 weeks after, oh, I gotta go for it now.
I don't think I can. I need to go through the entire content before I even attempt it. I'm gonna go through the entire content before
I have to think about strategy, so I study the least and I pass.
That's only some amount of study hours I can do to pass the exam.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to
That's
some people who already did it and ask them how to do it.
Oh, really?
That is the plan.
I'll give you a few hints and
That
from
would
some other
be
people too.
wonderful.
how they
Yeah. Strategies and studying, yeah.
Because this is overwhelming.
There's
I'm already
so much
kind
work.
of getting tired of thinking about it.
There's so much reading.
You're going through stress test, so that means you can handle situation in the project and stress.
Yeah, provided the stress doesn't get to you.
Wow. Okay.
tried very hard.
I
Just
know, I'm
not
trying
go
so
there.
hard, I'm not
Sorry
getting
about
there.
that.
I know, me too. I'm so hard.
It's the weather too. I was tired this last
I
weekend.
think it's that too, yeah.
in the heat.
It's a little bit outside.
realized something that might have been a little helpful for this, and something we had back in the first book, for different kinds of organizations. You can talk about matrix, strong matrix, and weak. May have not absorbed all that they had on that last time. I think this would have been a helpful sheet as we went through this. We've broken it down a lot more. It used to be really simple. It just had functional, 3 kinds of matrix organizations, and what they call projectized. You know, they've got this whole list of various kinds of combinations and hybrids, and a bunch of possibilities there.
What was that?
Where's the other girl? I'm sitting over there, I'm sitting up there so long.
Yeah, she'll be here next week. She said she'll be away for 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
She responded to the group mail today.
Hmm?
She responded to the group mail,
Oh,
saying that she'll be here next week.
what? I didn't see that.
Check the mail. He sent me a reminder.
It's funny. Yeah, that
And
is.
she responded to that, yeah.
Okay, let's go through the quiz. This time we'll go the direction I started to say we go last time. We'll go
Really
clockwise, yeah. I was gonna do clockwise last slide too, and then end up going backwards. I'll start out with the first one. Human resource administration is primary responsibility of the HR department.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if the.
Tanya, want to do next one?
Okay. The project manager has the most influence in a strong matrix organization.
That's correct.
What impact does a matrix organization have on a project team development? I pick C, it simplifies the team development.
When a matrix organization, you're pulling in people from different departments, different functional groups. You've got two bosses. You've got your functional manager, you've got your project manager. So.
It complicates.
Yeah.
Team development.
Yeah. So B is the answer
I
for that
thought
one.
functional is more problem. Isn't that functional is more problem in complications?
Functional manager is part of team development. We all work for one manager. We're in the silo. We work for one boss.
But for the project team, right?
If the project goes across,
Yeah, suppose
Thanks.
there is multiple team. Functional is complicated versus.
yeah. But if we're in a functional organization, we're just doing an engineering project, and we're probably just working with our same people that we always have. Or if we're in finance, we'll be working with finance people. That's why in functional organizations, cross-functional projects are pretty difficult. But I think they were kind of getting at that the functional organization, you're probably just doing something within your silo, within that one group.
In a different way, I thought that having a matrix organization, sometimes you have more strong, like PMO
Yeah, so project management is stronger power than.
Right.
If it's functional, then.
In a strong matrix, you'd have perhaps a strong.
Oh, it doesn't, it's just an A matrix,
Yeah.
not a strong matrix.
Not necessarily strong. It'd be weak,
Okay, that's,
middle ground. I think because of the complexity of project or organizational styles they put in there, I don't think you're gonna see as many questions on strong, weak, and make, strong, mixed or weak matrix. We might see some. You may throw in a hybrid question or some of these others.
Sometimes it's a toast, chamber. Stuff may be acquired from each of the following sources. I answered all, A, B, C.
Answer E is correct. Well, that frustration cry.
Question number 5, legitimate power is A, power derived from a person's formal position in the organization.
Yeah, A is correct.
Finally.
That was a squeak that time, it was a yay.
Project resource management process includes all except control the project team.
Yeah, that's correct. C is, or D is the exception.
7 is forcing as a means to manage conflict. Is D, it exerts one's view at the potential expense of another party and establishes a lose-lose situation.
So D.
Actually, I think you're gonna find A is correct. It's gonna be a win-lose situation. If I'm forcing somebody to do something, I'm winning, but that other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 8, a REM, an acronym for a tool and technique used in plan resource management, stands for C, responsibility assignment matrix.
Yep, that's correct. A footnote on number 9, even though it was removed sort of, Rita on page 398 says that Vroom's expectancy theory is a term you might see in the exam. So you have the short section about 4 or 5 definitions, more as a sub-point in a way. So it was like, well, I still got Vroom's expectancy theory. I probably should have left it in the slides. That's the one I took out though.
There it is.
There it is,
that was Rita's page.
398.
Answer is room expectation.
Vroom's expectancy theory, and what it said was basically that if people know that they do better and can see rewards and stuff, it'll motivate them to even do more. But if they see that there's nothing out there and things aren't going to, they'll probably deteriorate and taper off.
Number 9.
Isn't that what is
That's just what that's what Vroom's expectancy theory is, because it's not in the slides now. I may just put it back in this. We just said it might be. That's not the answer to the question.
Rooms expensive. No, I think the
That's
answer
not the
is
answer.
number
Okay.
six.
Oh,
That is
that's
not the
okay.
answer, guys.
I was
The
saying,
answer is
that's
C.
a footnote.
The answer is C.
Yeah, the answer
Yeah.
is
The
C.
answer is C.
The answer is correct.
I'm just telling you what the expectancy
He
theory
was
is.
testing us.
More information. Oh, no.
Because I look at, this answer, I look for it and then I answer, so I cannot remember.
And most of these are in Rita, by the way. Overall for Rita, page 385 to 387 goes through the motivational theories. So,
Which one is that?
Rita's book,
Oh.
385 to 387. Whose answer was that? Or whose question was that? Is that mine?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, C is the right answer.
All right.
With me?
Yep.
Constraints that impact the plan resource management process do not include, I said D, economic condition.
Could I have those affecting it?
It will be collective bargaining.
Yeah.
Agreements.
Actually, Don't assume anything here, but if we're in the planning stage, we don't have performance appraisals on people yet.
Right, A.
Yeah,
Oh, it's A?
yeah.
It's like a plan resource management, so this planning state, huh?
Planning and resource management, we're doing the upfront planning here.
Which of the following is not a tool and technique of a management team? I picked B, emotional intelligence.
That is actually one of the tools and techniques they mentioned.
Yeah.
Conflict
But I thought
management,
everything is part of the one technique, so I did not answer that.
But how do you
conflict management, team performance.
adjust somebody's emotional?
Well, if you work with them and know what triggers them into getting angry or depressed or excited, might be able to work with them.
That's a tough one to
Yeah.
manage.
But actually,
Would be
team
A.
performance assessments is an
Oh.
input into managed team.
See, this seems.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's an input.
Monitoring, okay, so C is the answer?
Yeah.
Alright, 12, the types and quantities of resources required for each work package activity. You answer that.
And would be B is found in the
Yeah.
process of estimated activity
Resources.
resources.
Alright,
The estimated activity resources is that process.
B,
B, yes.
question 13.
I think this is the second question 13 you've gotten.
What is not among the tools and techniques of developed team? It's an A, staffing management plan.
Yep, that's correct.
Didn't read that properly.
Important interpersonal skills the project manager uses to interact with the project team and stakeholders include. E.
All the above, yep, that's great. This is one I'd probably call a cheerleader question. Yep, okay, all good.
Co-location can mean, project team members are moved to the same physical location for the life of the project. Active team members may be at different physical locations but meet often. A project team war room is established where team members can meet more. A and C, B and C, I answered A.
I think A and C are good. And we've kind of blurred the lines nowadays with the virtual meetings and stuff, because it almost seems like we could be in different locations with some of these teams now, but A and C are really,
A and C are the right answer. D.
yeah, A and
D
C,
is the right answer.
yeah, so that's answer D.
so, but what is war room? Means war room is different time zones, still can do like,
War room is like a
specific
meeting.
time.
It's a meeting room where, everyone- like this,
Physical
this be our war room, we always meet here and work on our things here.
That's called co-location. Co-location is
That's
like
what they
you're
do.
completely overlapping time.
Co-locations in the same place, same room,
Like literally face to face.
literally, yeah, face to
100%
face.
overlapping time.
And war room's a term that's not used as much now, I don't think, but it's the idea that we're all together working through the problem. This kind of comes out of, I guess, World War II. I remember a movie, To Sink the Bismarck, which was the German warship that was the top of the line and was going to destroy the world if we got out. And the English had a war room where they actually worked on planning, how can we stop this big ship? And they actually did, they ended up sinking it, but it was, if that ship had gotten out and gotten around, it would probably done a lot of damage. And their war room was in the basement of one of the buildings in London. And they were getting bombed and everything all the time by the Nazis at that time. In the movie, after they'd been successful, the main lead and his friend came out, they were going to go have supper. It turned out it was morning, because they'd lost track of even time of day, because they'd been down in that bunker so much.
And the reason it's not B is because they meet often, but that's not actually working in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm missing.
Okay, number 16?
All right, 16.
Your turn.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay, number 16. Which of the following is best for handling cross-functional project needs for a large complex project? I said A.
A is correct. This is one where B and C really are people doing specific roles. That doesn't really, so you'd almost, in this exam practice-wise, I would throw out, B and C right away. It's okay, it's down to 2 organizational types. But A is the correct one. Acquire resources, tools, and techniques include negotiation, virtual teams, acquisition from external organizations and suppliers, pre-assignment. Yep, all the above.
The correct order of Tuckman's 14 developed model stages is C, forming, storming, norming, performing.
Yep, that's correct.
The 5 general conflict resolution techniques include it could be all the above.
It could be.
It is all.
It is all the above. By the way, for page reference on this, PMP talks about this on page 348 and 49.
Number 20, team charter contains communication, guidelines, configuration process, team agreements, all of that. Oh,
D.
D is correct. And PMP talks about this on page 319. And I know we had it in the slides too. Look at that, one of those slides.
21, one example of RAM, which links the project team members to the project work that needs to be done, is called a B, RACI.
Yep.
Yep.
That's correct.
Which type of organization is team building? Key, to be most difficult. Project time?
it is project type.
Projectized is where we work for one boss, one project manager, and we work for one time. We may be switched around to different projects, but typically we're kind of.
Functional would be the answer.
Actually, Matrix is the one, that's where we've got 2 bosses. We get the functional manager and the project manager. Depending on if it's a weak, strong, or balanced matrix, you have conflicts. Functional manager could pull people back to work on other stuff.
So it's C.
Yeah. Move back to me. Where's the chair?
Oh, my bad, sorry. Which of the following statements concerning compromise as a conflict resolution technique is false? Neither party wins, but both parties usually get some degree of satisfaction. And that is true.
Mhm.
Important aspects of the projects may be hindered in order to achieve personal objectives. That's the answer.
That's sometimes it might be true.
Compromise is generally considered a lose-lose situation, maybe not. A definitive resolution is seldom achieved. I think it's D.
Yeah, easy to answer.
D is the answer?
D.
Yeah.
D.
What's going on? Number 24.
Yeah, then the extra letter there.
Okay, which of the following is part of the expectancy theory of motivation?
Now, this is Broom's theory, so I'll help you with this.
Okay.
This is Broom's theory, so,
This is Bloom's theory?
yeah.
Okay.
And the answer for it is C. People tend to be highly productive and motivated if they believe their efforts will lead to successful results and that the success will lead to personal rewards.
So fortunately, reward should be identified or defined before the project starts, so they know that if they complete successfully, they get rewards.
That would be good. It's not always that way.
It's
Sometimes
not
we
always the
assume
case.
that they're going to
Yeah.
be rewarded.
Carrot and stick.
Potentially.
Carrot and stick,
Yeah, once again.
hopefully not an imaginary carrot out there.
Once again, once again,
No, we can't have a carrot.
projects we were given like these gift cards, and we thought it had at least, Amazon gift cards, and we were thinking it was gonna have $500 and then end of the year and all that. $20 gift cards, so I kind of just threw it away. I just gave it away. I'm like, it's
It's still 20, it's better than nothing.
like so cheap stuff.
Let's see, 25? Let's see, what's my trick? A histogram is commonly used to graphically display past and forecasted resource usages.
You already answered that?
D, histogram. We have an example of them showing those hours for the senior
I
developers.
missed that, I guess. So it's like, it's showing resource list allocated?
Mhm.
And it
And
comes.
well, in this case, resources and the hours used. over-
Histogram, basically the resources will be low in the beginning, peak at the middle, and then finally go low. That's why it's histogram.
Control resources, tools, and techniques includes all of the above.
All the above is correct.
How come he gets the simplest ones?
Simplest ones.
Considerations in selecting staff from resource pool should include all the above.
All the above is correct. Unfortunately, we're not going to see as many all the above, or maybe not many, or maybe not any.
It's a tough one, though.
I did not answer this question, but let's see what happens. The inputs to estimate activity resources include all except. I would guess. Need the inputs to estimate activity resources.
D, published.
Yeah, it's going to be D.
Published estimating data?
Yeah.
Question 29. Which of the following is not a tool and technique of the plan resource management? I know it's not A and not C.
Which is a 29?
I went with D, negotiation.
Yeah, plan the plan, at this point, negotiation isn't part of it. A later one requiring the team member doing negotiating, probably,
Oh,
but in planning,
The answer is D, not a D. She always starts celebrating. We used to
I
have
thought it was a silence,
See, you
sorry.
woke us up, and everyone alert now. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
There is a cat video that my dad said.
are they early cats?
Early in the morning, he's sending cat videos. It's early in the morning in India, so
Wow.
he's sending cat videos. It's my dad.
Senior management asks the project manager how the project would be affected if two resources were removed from the project. To calculate a resource, the project manager should perform modeling.
Yeah, modeling's correct. That's where we're trying to determine what impact pulling these two resources out would have. It's not on critical path, maybe no impact. If it's resources working on critical path activities, yeah, then it's going to have an impact.
If you're in 31, you're managing a project and find out that you need to apply resource leveling. Which of the following tools can help you identify resources that are over allocated? And I'm thinking it's D, resource assignment matrix.
RAM just shows what we're doing. It doesn't necessarily show if we're over allocated or what hours we're
So
doing.
it's then C,
Breakdown.
the breakdown structure?
This is going to be that histogram.
The histogram? Oh, wow. Resource. It's going to be
Okay, all right, number 32. Ground rules are established to set clear expectations regarding acceptable behavior by the project team members. Whose responsibility is it to enforce ground rules? And I selected C. All team members share the responsibility for enforcing the rules once they are established.
Yep, that's correct. No, the HR team should do that. No, they should, yeah, C is correct. As you walk into the office, you receive an email from the sponsor notifying you that the auditing team will be soon in your office to start a risk audit on your project. Next email you received has been forwarded to you and involves conflict between two team members. You are immediately bombarded with phone calls from both parties to the email complaining about the other. Which conflict resolution technique would you immediately use with the team members?
Avoiding.
Avoiding, yes. We got the audit about to start. Folks, let's table that. Let's table that for now and come back to that later.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We force them, shut up, don't talk to me. Don't talk to each other either. No.
But you create a situation then, you have to mitigate later, right?
Yeah, fuel to the fire.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
One more. Tanya?
I'm sorry. Collaborate, problem solve involves gaining multiple viewpoints and insights, working toward consensus. And
See, it is,
Yes, see, PMP talks about that, by the way, on page 249, for page reference.
Okay, about 241.
249,
18. 18 out of 34, which is about 50%.
And even that is also after cheating, after open book.
I wasn't cheating. I did not try to cheat. I was just
So your option to use.
intuiting.
Oh my God, I got 17.
I got 18.
you want to put it up on the screen so we can all see it?
How to hurt cats.
It's football season, you know, so there's a cat playing football with a little kid. It leaps up.
Oh,
Not once, but look at that.
wow. We're getting World Cup.
Exactly.
So next thing is you talk about communication or?